1 minute ago, Kamala testifies against Biden and Diddy. 1.4 Małżonkar's cover-up exposed. The courtroom was heavy with silence. Day 12 of the trial, but this was no ordinary day. Everyone in the room could feel it. Something was coming. Cassie sat still at the front bench. Her posture was calm, but her eyes told a different story. She had lived through chaos, and today she was about to name it. The judge adjusted his glasses. The lawyers shuffled papers. A quiet routine repeated so many times it had become mechanical. But then Cassie's attorney rose. "Your Honor," he said, voice steady, "we request to introduce new authenticated audio evidence." Gasps. A stir ran through the gallery. The judge leaned back. "Not disclosed during pretrial." "Explain." "It was submitted under seal, reviewed by federal agents. It's relevant." A pause. The judge nodded. "Admitted. Proceed." A small black speaker was wheeled in. Unmarked. Silent. But everyone stared at it like it carried a bomb. Cassie didn't flinch. She had heard it before. She had lived it. The prosecutor pressed play. Crackling. Silence. Then laughter. Diddy's voice, low, smooth, unbothered. Another voice answered, "R. Kelly." The courtroom held its breath. They talked like old friends. Studio time, tour stories. But the tone shifted. Control, discipline, power. Diddy said, "You don't let them think they got a choice. That's where you lose them." R. Kelly agreed. "You give them freedom, they flip. Keep them close. Keep them scared." The judge raised a hand. A juror covered her mouth. Someone in the gallery began to cry. The audio continued. Diddy laughed again. "Fear is loyalty." They named people. Some names were bleeped. Others weren't. Female artists, former staff, assistants. Diddy mentioned one who asked too many questions. "We got her out before she talked," he said. R. Kelly replied, "Same as I did. New contract. Keep the money flowing." The judge looked visibly disturbed. Cassie didn't blink. The recording was 11 minutes and 47 seconds. Raw. Unedited. Verified. Diddy's voice said blackmail insurance. "Keep a folder on everyone, just in case." Gasps. Then silence. The judge called a recess. No one moved. Diddy stared at the speaker, jaw slack. Not defiant. Not angry. Just hollow. Outside, chaos erupted. News alerts buzzed. Clips leaked. Hashtags trended. But back inside, Cassie sat hands folded. She wasn't surprised. This was the first time the world had heard what she always knew. And it was just the beginning. Day 12 of the trial began like the others, reporters sipping coffee, sketch artists, outlining the familiar faces and legal teams, prepping for another tedious round of testimonies. But there was a quiet buzz. Something felt different. The courtroom filled quickly, and then Cassie's attorney stood. "Your Honor, with the court's permission, we would like to introduce a new piece of authenticated audio evidence." A pause. Judge Harmon peered over his glasses. This wasn't listed in pretrial disclosures. It was submitted under seal and reviewed by federal investigators. It's directly relevant to the defense's timeline and character claims. The judge leaned back, weighed something in his mind. "Admitted, but proceed with caution." The room shifted. Even Diddy's defense team tensed. One attorney whispered into a phone, eyes wide. Then came the speaker, a small black device on a cart, unassuming, but it felt heavier than the entire courtroom. Cassie didn't move. Hands folded, eyes still. The prosecutor pressed play. A crackle. Silence. Then a voice. Diddy's. Smooth laughing. Then another joined in. R. Kelly. A ripple swept through the room. One juror covered her mouth. The court reporter froze. At first, the two men talked about old tour stories, studio nights. But then came the shift. "Diddy, you don't let them think they've got a choice. That's where you lose them." R. Kelly, exactly. "You give too much freedom, you lose the edge. Keep them close. Keep them scared." Judge Harmon raised a hand, visibly disturbed. someone in the gallery cried. Cassie didn't flinch. The audio continued. Names were mentioned, some bleeped, some not. Diddy, the one who kept asking questions, had to get her out before she talked. R. Kelly. Same thing I did with mine, relocate, new contract, keep the money flowing. They don't talk when their rent's paid. The prosecutor raised a document. Your Honor, this tape has been authenticated by 2 independent analysts. Chain of custody intact. The judge glanced at Diddy, who sat frozen. No charm, no swagger, just the weight of his own voice. Then came the worst part. R. Kelly. I keep a folder on every one of them, just in case. You never know who's gonna flip. Diddy smart, blackmail insurance. Gasps. One juror shook his head slowly. The courtroom felt colder. 11 minutes and 47 seconds later, the tape ended. Silence. The judge finally spoke. We will take a brief recess. Cassie didn't move. Diddy didn't turn to his lawyers. He just stared at the speaker as if betrayed by his own words. Outside chaos. Phones buzzed, clips leaked, hashtags exploded. Diddy or Kelly tape, charge or blackmail insurance. Cassie speaks. Inside the courtroom was no longer a trial. It was a reckoning. The next morning the gallery was full before sunrise. At 9:05 a.m. the judge entered. Proceed. The prosecution stood. We call our next witness, Miss Talia Morgan. Stir. Whispers. Talia had vanished from the public eye 7 years ago after working for both Diddy and R. Kelly. No one knew why she left until now. She walked in calm and focused, took the oath, faced the prosecutor. Miss Morgan, were you present during any private meetings involving Mr. Combs and Mr. Kelly? Yes, I was instructed to clear the rooms when certain conversations began. Conversations like what we heard yesterday. Exactly like that, about controlling people, about silencing them, about moving girls across state lines. Defense, objection, speculation. Prosecutor, Your Honor. Miss Morgan submitted an affidavit corroborated by time-stamped emails and audio memos. We move to enter her statement into evidence. Judge Harmon, visibly shaken, admitted. Talia continued. I was told never to record anything, but once I forgot to turn my phone off. That's the file you played yesterday. I submitted it anonymously months ago. A chill filled the courtroom. Diddy's legal team froze. There was a system, she said. Women were given roles, assistants, artists, guests. Their movements were tracked. If they asked too many questions, they were removed, or paid off. Were you ever threatened? Yes. The first time I tried to quit, I was told I'd be erased from the industry. The second time, I found a tracker on my car. That's when I disappeared. She held up a journal. Inside, quotes from meetings, direct statements made by Diddy and Kelly. Do you fear for your life today? Yes, but I'm more afraid of staying silent. Talia turned to the jury. There were women younger than me, braver than me. Some never made it out. I did. That's why I'm here. Across the room, Cassie looked up. Their eyes met. No words, just understanding. When Talia stepped down, the room didn't move. No one even breathed. The judge didn't bang his gavel. He just watched her leave. Respect was loud in that silence. Next, the prosecution called a former studio technician. Anonymous until today. Low profile. Unremarkable. But his testimony would alter the course of the trial. He took the stand. Do you recall hearing conversations like those in the tape? Yes, frequently. And they were recorded intentionally. They called it insurance. For safety, no. For control. If someone flipped, they used the recordings. Who had access? 2 people, Diddy's operations head and a guy known only as Ghost. He handled the off-record stuff. We weren't supposed to look him in the eye. He detailed encrypted files, wiped drives, audio logs. He handed over one of those logs now. It included entries like 11:42 p.m. RK asks about girl from Detroit. SC replies, handled, not a problem anymore. What did handled mean? Silenced or bought off? Diddy's lawyer objected. Your Honor, these are just notes. The original files are in federal custody. The prosecution shot back. They'll speak for themselves. Judge Harmon allowed it. Diddy didn't react. He just stared at his own hands. Then the technician was asked, "Why are you speaking now?" He looked at the jury. "Because I have a daughter. She's 14, and I realized that staying silent meant helping build the same world I never want her to grow up in." Again, silence, not from shock, from impact. Day 13 of the trial didn't end. It transformed. What started as a civil case was now a tectonic shift, and no one, not even Diddy, could stop it. By day 14, the courthouse no longer felt like a legal venue. It was something more. A confession booth, a reckoning chamber, a place where whispers became roars. News coverage had shifted from curiosity to obsession. The names Diddy and R. Kelly weren't just trending, they were unraveling in real time. That morning the gallery filled before sunrise. The air was thick with anticipation. Reporters scrambled for seats. Sketch artists sharpened pencils like weapons. Judge Harmon entered subdued but firm. "Proceed," he said. The prosecution called their next witness. A woman in her 30s, known only as Ava, stepped forward. Her identity was sealed due to ongoing threats. She wore a gray blazer, hands trembling slightly, but her voice clear. "I worked as a personal assistant to Mr. Combs between 2016 and 2018. Were you aware of the conversations referenced in the tape?" "Yes. I wasn't supposed to be, but I overheard them, more than once." She described moments in limos, backstage rooms, gated estates, places where celebrities joked and conspired in equal measure. She detailed a party in 2017. There was a list. Guests had codes next to their names. The code S9 meant silence ensured by 9 p.m., meaning the prosecutor asked. People who asked too many questions were escorted out. Some never came back. Were any contracts signed that night? Yes. I saw one woman crying after signing. She left in a car with no plates. The courtroom absorbed her testimony like dry earth absorbing rain. It was heavy and necessary. Ava held up a small booklet, a planner. Inside were initials, names, coded remarks. The judge admitted it into evidence. "What made you come forward?" Ava paused. "My sister. She wanted to be a singer. I knew what would happen if she got too close." The courtroom was still, no questions from the defense. Then came the twist. The prosecutor stood. "We move to admit written testimony from an anonymous former legal counsel to Mr. Combs." "Objection," Diddy's attorney barked. "Anonymous? That's absurd." The judge nodded. "Sustained for now, but I'll review in chambers." Outside, chaos. More hashtags, more leaks, but inside the calm intensity of justice continued. That afternoon the judge returned. Testimony will be admitted under seal. Its contents are relevant and verified by federal investigators. The courtroom braced. A clerk read aloud, "I was hired to draft NDAs, settlement clauses, and silence clauses. I wasn't allowed to ask who they were for. I was paid triple my normal rate. One memo instructed me to include a clause stating, 'Violation may result in reputation nullification.' I knew then I wasn't protecting clients, I was protecting predators." The courtroom was paralyzed. Every word was a blade. Cassie didn't cry, but her hand closed into a fist on the table. The next witness, a security guard, confirmed entries and exits from those infamous nights. He mentioned surveillance footage wiped clean, USB drives handed off at midnight. Every moment another crack in Diddy's fortress. By sunset the judge looked visibly older. "We will adjourn for today," he said. "But let the record reflect this case has shifted beyond civil litigation." People exited slowly, no shouting, just silence heavy as iron. Outside the world waited. Inside the truth kept marching forward. Day 15 began with added federal presence. Metal detectors, plainclothes, agents' whispers of DOJ inquiries. The courtroom had become a staging ground for something far larger. No one said it aloud, but everyone felt it. The network was deeper than expected. The prosecution wasted no time. They called their next witness Jeremiah Lowe, a former digital forensics contractor who worked freelance for multiple high-profile clients, including Bad Boy Records. He adjusted his glasses as he was sworn in, a tablet in hand. "What is your area of expertise?" the prosecutor asked. "Digital security, recovery, deletion, and encryption of sensitive media." "Did you work for Mr. Combs?" "Yes, I was contracted to sanitize devices. Phones, computers, cloud backups." He tapped his tablet. A screen lit up behind him. "This," he said, "is a screenshot from a mirrored backup, retrieved from a RAID storage array dated January 2018. It was not deleted, just buried." The image showed folder names, cryptic, code-like. One was labeled Velvet Room 2014. What's in that folder? A compilation of audio and video logs, meeting notes, facial recognition tags. Gasps rippled. The defense objected. The judge overruled. The evidence was allowed. Jeremiah continued. One subfolder included logs from a surveillance system installed in a Napa Valley property. I recovered footage from a concealed camera behind a wine cellar. What was in the footage? A room with velvet walls, a long table, guests signing forms, a woman visibly distressed. Mr. Combs and another man now confirmed to be Joseph R. Biden observing. Silence. The courtroom had held breath before, but this moment suffocating. Diddy looked down. Joe Biden's name dropped like a stone into still water. No one reached to stop it. Jeremiah wasn't done. He played a short, muted clip, the wine cellar, the contracts, the figures. No sound, just imagery, raw, shocking. Next came a new voice. The judge cleared his throat. The court will now hear a sealed deposition from a former staff coordinator identified as Aaron. Her identity remains protected under whistleblower statutes. A recording played. I arranged travel. I signed vendor checks. I sourced flowers and sound systems. But the real job, ensuring confidentiality. Aaron's voice was calm, detached. I ran a code system. If a red file appeared on the weekly manifest, it meant a high-risk guest was attending. My job was to swap staff disable cameras and coordinate entry points. Why did you stay silent? The prosecutor's voice asked. Because I had 2 kids. Because I had a mortgage. Because the first time I asked questions, I got an envelope with a flash drive and a photo of my daughter at daycare. A chill swept through the room. The testimony continued. One night in 2015, I was handed a sealed file to destroy. I opened it. Inside were signed releases, NDAs, and a document marked Moral Deviation Waiver. I had never seen anything like it. That's when I knew I was part of something much darker than PR damage control. The judge called for a recess, but the next hour brought another revelation. A former sound engineer testified. I was instructed to adjust audio levels to obscure certain voices, especially in footage involving Mr. Biden. I didn't ask why. I was paid not to. Did you keep any backups? He nodded. Encrypted. Stored off-site. And now in the hands of the DOJ. The courtroom was cracking at its edges. The defense team whispered furiously. One attorney appeared to text under the table. Then a surprise. A letter was submitted, handwritten. From a woman named Grace, once a background vocalist. I was 19. I was told to sign a release. I thought it was for studio rights. I didn't know I was signing away my freedom. They filmed us. They told us we were lucky. I spent years thinking I was crazy, but now I know. I wasn't alone. The gallery had no expressions left, just stunned silence. Cassie closed her eyes, her hands relaxed. The prosecution rested for the day, but not before dropping one last bombshell. We will be requesting federal witness protection for 3 individuals prepared to testify in the coming sessions. Their testimony will directly connect the operations of Mr. Combs and Mr. Biden to a system of psychological manipulation, trafficking, and coercion. No one moved. The judge didn't adjourn with the gavel. He simply said, "We will continue tomorrow," and left the bench in silence. Day 16 dawned with overcast skies and barricades lining the courthouse steps. Helicopters circled overhead. Rumors of federal raids had begun to circulate online. Inside the courtroom felt colder than ever. People no longer whispered they watched. The prosecution wasted no time. "Your Honor," said lead counsel, "we now call Miss Talia Morgan to the stand." The name echoed. Talia Morgan, former executive assistant, vanished from the public eye years earlier. Her hair was pinned back, her expression resolute. "Miss Morgan, what was your role in Mr. Combs' organization?" "I was responsible for scheduling coordinating events, securing privacy." "Did you work with Mr. Biden?" Talia paused. "Yes, on 3 occasions." The courtroom rippled with shock. "I was tasked with arranging secure meetings, transport logistics, access control. Mr. Biden was a guest at private gatherings hosted by Mr. Combs." She opened a leather folder and handed the court a series of printed emails, confirmations, itineraries, payment ledgers. "What happened at those gatherings?" Talia swallowed. "Guests were asked to surrender phones. They signed documents, non-disclosure agreements, waivers. Some were asked to take photos holding props later used as leverage. One juror looked visibly ill. The judge reviewed the documents silently, admitted. The gallery stirred. Next, the DOJ's representative, Agent Rhodes, was sworn in. Clean-cut, precise. "We've corroborated Miss Morgan's testimony. The documents align with surveillance footage recovered from off-site storage. Mr. Combs and Mr. Biden appear in multiple frames. Have federal charges been filed pending? But probable cause is confirmed." Gasps. Then came the recordings, one by one. Short but devastating. A young woman's voice. "He told me if I talked, I'd never work again. He said powerful men protect each other." Another voice I saw, contracts burned, names erased, everything cleaned. The courtroom held its breath. These weren't just accusations, they were corroborations. The final recording came from an anonymous whistleblower. "I watched Biden enter that house. He smiled, posed for photos, laughed. Then the doors closed and no one came out for hours. The judge ordered a short recess. When court resumed, the defense was on edge. Diddy sat frozen, his jaw clenched. His attorneys scribbled notes, but no one argued. Then another bombshell. The prosecution entered a new exhibit, a set of financial transfers. The same LLCs that paid off NDA signers were used to wire funds to Biden-affiliated PACs. These aren't coincidences, they're patterns. A line had been crossed. Now money trails pointed toward complicity. A second DOJ agent was called. "We have launched an expanded RICO investigation." The air left the room. Cassie glanced sideways at the press. The flashing cameras had stopped. Reporters were scribbling faster than they could breathe. The court recessed again. Security was doubled, the courthouse locked down. Outside networks broadcast the breaking news. Federal conspiracy probe expands, Biden named. When court resumed, a new face took the stand. Former tour security head Marcus Green. "I was there," he said, voice steady. "I drove them, protected the gates. I watched women go in crying and come out numb." He handed over keycard logs, internal emails, call records. Proof. Hard, irrefutable. "Why testify now?" asked the prosecutor. "Because I couldn't sleep anymore. Because I have a daughter." Silence. Cassie exhaled deeply. Her eyes met the judge's. The prosecutor rose once more. "Tomorrow we bring our final witness. She's been under protection. Her testimony confirms the existence of an internal list individuals flagged for grooming, manipulation, or elimination. That list includes politicians, artists, and media executives." Diddy slumped. Biden, though not present, had become a phantom in the room. Every new line of testimony pulled his image tighter into the frame. The judge nodded slowly. "The court acknowledges the gravity. We proceed with full review." And for the first time, the idea of consequences didn't feel theoretical. It felt inevitable. The courtroom was silent, too silent. Day 20 had arrived. The final phase of the trial that had gripped the country and uncovered a web of manipulation power and silence was underway. Kamala Harris stepped back into the witness box. Her heels echoed off the polished floor. Her gaze was steady, but there was weight behind it, the weight of knowing she was the last to speak. "Madam Vice President," the prosecutor began, "thank you for appearing. Let's begin simply. Did you know Sean Combs, and to what extent?" "Yes," Kamala replied. "I knew him through political fundraisers and mutual acquaintances in the entertainment industry. But what I came to know later, what I learned from the documents from Mia, and from my own investigations was something else entirely." The gallery shifted. The silence deepened. She continued. "There was a systemic effort to control and silence women. That effort wasn't limited to Combs. It stretched further, into campaign donations, into corporate sponsorships, into policy manipulation. And I have the receipts." The courtroom erupted in murmurs. She handed over a red folder. It contained encrypted communications between Joe Biden's fundraising committee and a shell company, Eastridge Holdings, which had made undisclosed payments to Combs' legal team. "This isn't about politics," Kamala said. "This is about accountability." Judge Harmon reviewed the documents. He turned pale. The forensic accountant was called again. He confirmed over $1.4 million had been funneled from an unnamed PAC directly into Diddy's defense strategy. The connection, one of Biden's top strategists, had previously worked for Eastridge Holdings. Back on the stand, Kamala looked at Diddy, then at the jury. "I've sat on committees that claim to protect women. I've voted on bills meant to guard victims, but all those protections mean nothing if we allow power to shield predators." Then she dropped the line that would echo through headlines for days. "This isn't a trial. This is an intervention for a nation addicted to silence." Gasps followed. Reporters scrambled. The prosecution called its final witness, an anonymous voice modulated through video, a former Biden campaign aide. "There was a dossier," the voice said. "It included names of women, payouts, threats. Biden knew of Combs' behavior. He was briefed multiple times, but Diddy brought money, access, votes. The campaign looked away." Objection sustained, but the judge made no effort to mask his disgust. Next came Exhibit 103, a ledger showing 29 payouts labeled compliance expenses. Kamala Harris stepped down. The defense, disarmed and discredited, didn't call a single rebuttal witness. Not even Joe Biden testified. He had issued a brief statement the night before. "I do not condone abuse. I will cooperate fully with any investigation." Too late. The jury deliberated for 9 hours. When they returned, the verdict was read aloud. "We find the defendant Sean Combs guilty on all counts." A second round followed. "We recommend a federal inquiry into campaign finance violations, ethical misconduct, and conspiracy involving the Biden 2020 campaign." Pandemonium. Outside, thousands gathered. The hashtag #ChuckerJusticeReclaimed trended worldwide. Feminist groups, whistleblowers, and survivors' coalitions launched new initiatives. The DOJ issued a press release confirming subpoenas against Eastridge Holdings. Kamala didn't return to the public eye for a week, but when she did, she stood before the Capitol with Mia beside her. "This isn't about red or blue. This is about truth, and we're just getting started." The camera panned across the crowd. Protesters held signs, "Power must be accountable." Kamala stood up, and Mia matters. Back in New York, Diddy sat in a federal cell. 45 years without parole, no more music, no more brands. Just silence, the kind he once used as a weapon now turned on himself. Biden's approval ratings tanked. Hearings were scheduled. And across the country, survivors began sharing their stories. Mia returned to her old neighborhood. She wasn't trying to reclaim a past, she was building a future. The Women's Center she co-founded with restitution funds opened its doors within a month. It bore one message at the entrance: to those silent, speak. We're ready. As for Kamala, history remembered her not just as a vice president, but as the first official to testify against her own party in the name of justice. She said it best herself in her final line to the court: "You cannot heal what you refuse to confront." The court had confronted it. The nation had listened. And for the first time in a long time, the silence was gone.